Okay, today we'll be doing equivalent ratios using tables. So we'll be doing lesson 12 and lesson 13. So use a table of equivalent ratios like a pro. That's what we'll be doing today. So for the first part, you are just listening. So finding a row containing 1. So I've been saying this a lot. This is going to be the key to the tables. So it is often a good way to work with tables of equivalent ratios. For example, the price of 4 pounds of granola is $5. So at this rate, what would the price be for 62 pounds? So here are tables showing 2 different approaches. Both are correct, but one is more efficient. So the one that you see first, that one is the one that isn't the best way to do it. Now you're going to end up at the correct answer. It's just going to take you a really long time. So what's happening on this side is where I'm focusing first. What they're doing is they're timesing them by 2 every single time, right? Up until they get to the point of 64. Well, at 64, you went too far because we're looking for 62. So now you need to subtract 2 pounds. And remember, whatever you do to this side, you do to this side. So they multiplied by 2, and then they subtracted over there. Now, the table that we're going to be focusing on, which is a little more efficient, there's not as many steps, so it's easier. So when you get to your homework, it's going to kind of be the same situation when you get to Khan Academy. So what's happening here is they give you the 4 pounds at the cost of $5. So what you can do is what I've been telling you over and over is we could divide 5 by 4, and we're going to get the $1.25 or the 1.25. And that 1.25 is telling us 1 pound. So whenever you divide what's given, you will get what happens for 1. And once you're able to figure out what happens for 1, you can just multiply or divide that by whatever it's asking in the table. So we're skipping to section 3, and it starts on page 66. Where you're writing, though, is going to be page 67. But I think the table is on page 66. So Lynn is paid $90 for 5 hours of work. She used the following table to calculate how much she makes in 8 hours. So we want to know what she does in 8 hours. Okay? So what happens with this is if we did off the bat, I'm going to do this 90 divided by 5 because that's how I always do it, because I want to know what happens for her in 1 hour. So 90 divided by 5 is 18. So that 18 is going to be important in everything that comes. And notice the 90 and 5 are in the table, and I divided those. And I got 18. So that 18 is the amount she earned in 1 hour. And remember, I keep telling you, find what happens for 1. Okay, so it says on number 1, what's the meaning of the 18 that appears in the table? Well, she made $18 in 1 hour. So that is what you'll write for number 1. Number 2 says, why was the number used as a multiplier? So we were looking for 1 hour. So now what they did in the book is they took this 5 and they put it over 1. And what they did is they multiplied it, that's what you see there, by 1/5. Now when we multiply, which we'll be starting on Tuesday, but 5 times 1 is 5. You just multiply straight across. 1 times 5 is 5. Well, you know that 5 over 5 makes 1. So what they're trying to highlight to you is that you can multiply it by its inverse or its opposite, and that's going to give you 1. So for number 3, it says, explain how Lynn used the table to solve the problem. So you will write what I wrote in this little box here. If you find 1 hour, then you can multiply or divide by whatever quantity it's asking. So let's just use this real quick. I remember I did this earlier. 90 divided by 5, that was 18. So that's for 1 hour. So now if it's asking, well, how much money did she earn in 8 hours? All you would do is 18 times 8. So see what happens when I find for 1 hour, it's helpful when using the table. So now we're going to physically do this. So it says at this rate, how much would she make in 3 hours of work? So remember, we're dividing these. 90 divided by 5, which I already did, is 18. So now I can take that 18 and I can multiply it by the 3 hours it's saying, and I get 54. So for number 4, write that. And then it says for 2.1 hours, how much would she make? So I already figured out this 18 is 1 hour. So now if they want to know 2.1 hours, you just multiply 18 by the 2.1 and you would get 37.8. Okay, so now we switch over to lesson 13. You're not going to be doing anything in your book. You are just going to be listening because it's going to be important for when you do Khan Academy and your practice. So tables and double number line diagrams. So we're going to contrast double number lines and tables. So you are just watching. You're going to need to be able to do this. So on a double number line diagram, we put labels in front of each line to tell what it represents. That's right there. You know that. On a table, we put labels at the top of each column. You already know that, to tell us what those numbers represent. So here are 2 different ways you can represent a situation of a snail is moving at a constant speed down a sidewalk. He's going 6 centimeters per minute. So for every 1 minute, he is going 6 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to scroll where it's a little bit bigger. And what you're going to need to know is this. This 1 and 6, that is very important. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the number line and you're going to fill in a table is pretty much what's going to happen. So notice how, well, in 1 minute, he goes 6 centimeters. Notice how that matches what I just did here. Well, you might get a question like, how far does he go in 3 minutes? So you would put your 3 minutes in the table there, and then you're going to, again, use what's vertical to that. So what's vertical to that is 18. So basically what you need to know is you need to be able to take this number line and put it in a table like that. That's going to be important to know. And you're always going to start with this right here. Whatever they do in 1 minute, they can do 6 centimeters. So if it asks, how much does he do in 2 minutes? Your answer would be 12 centimeters. And you need to be able to put it in a chart or a table based on how it's labeled. So both double number lines and tables can be used. We use multiplication to make equivalent ratios, but there is an important difference between the two. On a double number line, the numbers are listed in order. Where there's a table, you can use any order. And that's why the table is the most efficient. So that means it's the best way. Sometimes the table is easier because you don't need to go in order. And if it has 300, you don't need to make 300 ticks like you do on a double number line. Okay, so the example, what if we wanted to know how far a snail travels in 10 minutes? Notice that 60 centimeters in 10 minutes is shown on the table, but it's not shown on the double number line. And that's because we don't want to make 60 ticks on a number line. So the table is easier. So you're going to join the meet and you're going to start your practice.